thank you for coming and not being at the extensor talk, which also I would like to see, but oh well. So I am Lynn Cherny. I am teaching at a business school in Lyon, and I'm teaching data science to business students, which is part of the point of this talk. Like, what are the jobs that are possible for my students to get? I'll describe a student project around this and the extensions, and then you can give me ideas for what you would like to see later. Whoops. So EM-Lyon Business School decided to start a data science and analytics program and asked me if I wanted to come and teach for a couple of years. I was a consultant doing data viz, data analysis, and generally teaching as well in America, and I just came in September to start this program. I've taught a Python bootcamp, then data analysis with pandas, a bunch of NLP courses, business analytics, basically because I said I don't think we should be teaching any of this without teaching SQL, and Tableau for data visualization, which I'll show you today. Next year, I'll be teaching an Intro to AI course that's not programming oriented. It's just about the concepts and how it works, and teaching web database applications. So essentially, the project I'm talking about here started because I'm in a marketing department, which is strange. I have no business background at all. And the faculty in the marketing department, when they heard what I was planning to teach, said, do they really need to know this stuff? Like, why do business students need to learn analytics? And I basically said, let's find out. Let's do this data collection where we will collect job ads in France for French jobs of all types and look at what the requirements are. So what are the skills that people are looking for in France? Just as one anecdote, when I thought it would be transparently obvious that I should be teaching SQL, and none of them knew what it was in the department. None of the faculty knew what it was. And the head of the department actually called her daughter, who has a business degree and works at Amazon in Paris, and said, do you know what SQL is? And her daughter said, of course I do. What do you want to know, Mom? So essentially then, that was proof that I should be teaching SQL to our students. Okay. I just realized this is being recorded. Well, in any case, after that conversation, I had this opportunity to create a project team between students at École Centrale, which is probably École Centrale Lyon instead of Lyon Centrale. Anyway, it's the engineering school across the street, literally across the street from EM-Lyon. We joined students of theirs with students of ours at the business school to work on a data science project, essentially. There were 5 or 6 projects, but I picked this one that was collecting job ads and analyzing the requirements. Just for your information, generally we expected that the students across the street, because it's an engineering school, would be coders, and the students on our side would not be, and this was not true. So if you know something about the way engineering schools work in France, some of them were mechanical engineers who were just sort of moonlighting in a coding class and didn't write code at all. And then on our side, we had several students had already taken my Python classes and knew some NLP, knew some pandas, and were pretty good coders, actually. So it didn't work out exactly the way we expected on the skills distribution. I was extremely lucky because it was a text mining problem and because it was about finding jobs. I had a lot of very good students sign up for my project. On the left side here are the students from École Centrale. This woman was a joint enrolled student between business school and Centrale. She was the most amazing project manager I've ever seen. You absolutely should try to hire her if you need a good project manager for a technical project. We did Scrum, so she's an agile Scrum project manager. Thomas Pucci was this unbelievable, I think largely self-taught React front-end dev. He has like 3 jobs right now, so you'll never hire him. Jan Veginet was an amazing Python data scientist doing NLP stuff on an internship now. I worked less with these two, so I have less to say about them. Roxanne, on my side, was one of my best students in any of my courses and is looking for an internship now. These two are also good coders. Sophie Reiser did not take my coding classes, but she's an amazing market research analyst person. So this guy, unbelievable, like visual artist, talented designer. So they did very well. Our project was the best out of all of the 5, etc. Okay, so for our job site is essentially it was a little bit half-assed because we just needed to get some data and start looking at it because they had a deadline. So I knew that Indeed, the Indeed.com and Indeed.fr site have an API, so I registered and gave them access to my key. We looked at this APNIC.fr site, which is for so frankly, I don't really know the French business landscape, but it seems to be for sort of higher level advanced jobs. Managers, thank you, okay. And the academic partner who provides jobs for business schools as a feed, and I think for other types of schools, gave us a dump of data. So this was the largest amount of data we had, but you should think of them as an educational job provider, which means that their data is slightly different. So let me show you the demo of what they built, and then I'll explain it. So I searched for data science on it, and we get sort of the hits. One of the great things that Thomas Pucci built was a map view. So you can see where are the data science jobs in France, and zoom in if you want. There's a lot more detail as you zoom in. This little color thing is actually the quality of the match for the terms against the documents in the database. It's an Elasticsearch search. So I could have put a lot more text here. So you can get sort of a crappy formatting of the text if you want. So that was good, and actually I was super surprised to see all of the jobs in the south of France, and Toulouse has a lot of activity, which is great. This is Lyon. All right, so another thing that's interesting, we have obviously filters, type of job, salary. When this pops up and I see that the top on it is 50,000, I'm from the US. Data scientists are making twice that, so I was like, wow, you're in France. I'm not saying data scientists should be making twice that, but the fact is. Okay, then one of the very interesting things that we built over here is this competence filter. So my question for them was, how do we detect skills in job ads? So we're interested in and you should think about this too, because I need some help thinking about it now. So for instance, if I do a search for Python, I get over here a little highlight of the jobs that have Python in the text description, which is super useful, obviously. And then over here, I get we're going to revisit this later, but I get what are the closest terms in Word2Vec space to Python in job ads in this data set. So if you're looking for a Python job, you might also need to know, believe it or not, about Fortran. Is this a thing about French jobs? Does this ring any bells with you guys, that Fortran's still big? Somebody's nodding next to Olivier. Okay, Fortran's still big. Not only that, Perl is huge in France. Okay, well, in any case, Perl seems to be the closest term to match Python in the Word2Vec space, which is bizarre to me. But in any case, this is the terms that came up. And I don't have a giant data set yet, you'll see, but that's been pretty consistent over the last 3 months. Okay, so you can also upload a CV, and it will try to take apart your CV, find skills, and then match them to the job ads and to this list of competences. I'm not going to do it, but I'll show you what it looks like. It's a bit strange. Okay, wait, let me go back to the demo for a second here. So I can add things, so SQL. It updates this, sort of reducing the set, shows you where SQL is in relation to Python and the other tools, so we can keep adding things. So this job here has Python and Excel, but not SQL. This one has all three. Criteo, that figures, right? Okay. MySQL and SQL obviously are super close in Word to Vec space, so we get MySQL as well, which is smart. Okay. So the map, the zoom in on the map. Okay, if I upload somebody's resume, so for instance, I found the first data science resume I could find on the internet, which is, hello, Jonathan Whitmore, wherever you are. You're the first hit for a resume on data science. So down here, programming and development skills, we have, notice this. This is a section that's called out, very American resume format, called out that says skills and has this kind of language, right? When I uploaded this guy's resume into my student project, I got a slightly strange list of things. A, Git, Mountain, presumably from Mountain View, data science, statistical modeling. I didn't get like pandas, scikit-learn, things like that, which, so the resume parsing part definitely has some bugs. And the A, I just thought that was a bug until I looked deeper into the code. All right, so this is the network of related terms, including mountain, that showed up for his resume. Okay, back to the problem at hand. So my business school students, they talked to 95 students about the job search process, and 50% of them weren't satisfied with the current websites. Keep in mind, they have an academic feed, an academic partner that's providing us data, that's most of the data that they're looking at, okay? So 60% of them say they prefer talking to people in their network than using those tools. That figures at a business school, they're all networking all the time, right? 45% of the respondents don't even have an idea of what skills are necessary to obtain their jobs. Keep that in mind too, because when you start looking at business job ads, you might see why that is. Okay, the other, another part of the great business side of this was, I just wanted to highlight the amazing work that Nicolas Luvin did on the branding and the design. The engineering design was this, and then after he was done with it, we had this amazing logo and like great concept. He should be hired. They also did nice mock-ups for things that could be better. So for instance, when you do a search for competences, we should highlight them in green everywhere. They should be green here. Maybe not with the TSNE graph, which is hard for random people to interpret. Maybe it should just be a strength of match. Make more obvious, upload your CV place. Okay, then they all got A's and then they left. So this was the architecture. This is the architecture existing now. So we have these API sources for jobs that we crawled. There's a crawler here on an EC2 machine. We had a Mongo database for the text that we scraped off sites. Then they indexed it in Elasticsearch, and then there was a Python Flask app. So I made them do all of this and basically told them how to set up Elasticsearch and how to do the Mongo database and this import. And then they went off and learned Flask themselves. The web guys already knew Node and had an account on Heroku and were good at React. So I didn't have anything to do with this. They just did their own thing. So I helped on the Python data side and then on the text mining side. But then after it was all over, I looked at the code. I mean, they deserved an A anyway. It was really obvious that they had done a great job. But there were definitely things that as their professor I failed to do. Like I didn't look carefully at the schema in the databases. One of the things missing is that they didn't put the date the items were added to them. This seems super obvious to anyone with database experience, and I always forget, even though they're students who know how to code, they don't have a ton of experience. And essentially this was a big wake-up call for me that like they seem super competent, but they're super young and they haven't worked on a lot of jobs. So this was I went, oh my God. Because essentially I only have the date that's on the job ad for several of these sources, which is not enough. Then I looked at what they scraped. So what were they searching for in the scrape? So initially I was like, let's just collect all of Indeed.fr, everything posted on that, because I was like, let's go big. And they didn't do that. Maybe I'm glad they didn't, because it would have been harder to deal with as a data set. Instead, they set up searches that were sort of like random. You'll see in a second how random they were. Like a few engineering terms, some business terms, and then we got a long list of words from the biz school students, the students in business, about what they search for when they're looking for a job, and it's a really long list. And they're all really vague. They're things like, one guy said, anything but finance. That's literally what he was supposedly searching for. It's like, how do I just say no finance in every other job? Okay, so, you know, whereas on the technical side, we are much more likely, I think, to search by like skills of technologies we want to use or problem domains. So there was also no automation of any of the indexing in Elasticsearch. So I found their notebooks where they actually like pushed all the data into Elastic, and it's fine code, but it hadn't been automated. So I did it a week ago to get ready for this, so you saw the latest stuff. But and the scraper code itself was never put on GitHub, so that's super fragile. It's sitting around on an EC2 instance, and it needs to be rewritten. So, I mean, they did a good job. It's definitely like a V0.1 prototype. Then on the security side, this was just a tragedy. I'm not a good DevOps person, and I never would look for a DevOps job, but I ended up being DevOps for this team of students and for most of the faculty at my university. So essentially, I couldn't set up Mongo with, like, I couldn't figure out how to get my own key generated and share it and stuff. It never worked. So I spent a couple of days on this and failed. I ended up using tunneling, which works fine and is reasonably secure, but ridiculous that this was so hard. Elastic right now is absolutely wide open, and when I looked at the tables, some virus had hit us and like added extra tables. At first I thought a student was actually storing data in our database because I'd set up a free AWS server for him. No, it was a virus, and Amazon just sent me mail saying, what are you doing? I didn't want to modify it before this demo because I was afraid I would break the demo. So it will not be open after this demo. Then, like the firewall problem, I don't know how people at engineering schools do any code right now. All of my SQL databases are in the cloud. Everything is in the cloud when I teach, and I have this constant problem that we can't get through the firewall to get to the cloud machine to teach. If anyone here has answers to that, like what I have to say to the IT team. So we're all like sitting there with our phones tethering to do our big data project. The AWS stuff is hard. One of the student teams, I found out later, couldn't even figure out how to set up their own cloud hosting, and they gave up and did it all local. Whereas I have a URL with a demo because we were good, and also because I was their DevOps and got something running. So this is a hard part of teaching. So let's look at the data in more detail. So the academic partner that I'm going to call JT, if you guess who it is, gave us 78,000 a dump out of their database as CSV, 78,000 job ads. We scraped 25,000 from APNIC, and we got 10,000 only from Indeed, which surprised me. It was something to do with the searches we used. So this is the APNIC manager site. When I showed this to a student, one of my students said they would never hire someone like me. So he just doesn't, like none of them use this site. They don't even use it to figure out like what are the skills that are needed in business managers or anything. Okay, this is what Indeed looks like. Now Indeed is an international company. They're serving job ads all over the world. So they just have the link and a bit of filtering info and stuff, but then to get the actual text, you have to scrape the site, the source. They don't store the source anywhere, okay. And because it's international, we did a search specifically for France in our location search, but we got a lot of English ads. There's a mix, there's German, English, and French in those ads, whereas APNIC is all French. And the other JT, it was all French, I think. Try not to laugh that they need a brand manager for Uber. Okay, data in the database. So these are some of the words that I found out that they were searching. At least they were saving the actual keyword that was used to search, which means I could build a classifier if I wanted to. But then look at the words that were used to search. Audit, which is a bit random. These are things that came from the business students. Big data with a capital B. I don't know if that has an impact. Digital with a capital D. Product owner, brand, web design, 2 capitals. Over here on the Indeed side, they were not even the same term, so we can't like compare across the 2 sites. They were different searches. Big data as 1 word actually hit 7 articles. So some of these I added later to flesh it out. Like I added data visualization, and then visualization with the English spelling S hits a lot more actually. So it's a sort of mixed bag. This is obviously the number of articles. So web development, 8,000 articles from APNIC. Over here, 1,100 marketing articles, 1,600 for Asha purchasing. All right, so then when I looked at the dates, just to make sure we were collecting across the period, so this is just some quick and dirty plotting. So this is from February is when we started collecting by scraping, and then I updated somewhere in here, added some words. Maybe this is when I added words, and this is up till the end of May. So month and day scraping, there's some peak here. This was Indeed. Because we didn't have the date of the actual scraping on Indeed, we just have the publication date. It seems like there's some really old ads sitting around in Indeed's data feed. Yeah, somebody's nodding because she knows. Yeah, so 2016, 9/30. So the dates on the articles go way back. And then here is where I beefed up the collection and added more. So this is when we're scraping for real. Okay. All right, then this is the data provided by this partner. These are the dates on their articles. So they gave us this random weird dump that starts from 2013 and then goes, up to middle of February. And this, of course, I thought this was an error in the data and looked into it, but this is real. For some reason in their data set, they have like 6,000 entries that have the same date on them. Different time, same date. Makes me slightly concerned about their data. But anyway, they were different ads. I checked. Okay, so on their data, because we got a dump, we don't have a category. We didn't have a search term, but we have categories. So they have like a bunch of fields where they classify the type of ad. So these are the counts of the types of ads that they have. If you look at this just at a top level, most of it's business terms, okay? I don't know for sure that this partner is aiming at business or if they're just filtering business ads to us. There is dev and IT in here, which is 6,000 job ads, but the biggest here is 11,000 with marketing. And then the rest of these, a lot of, but see, then they have physics, materials, energy. This is a super weird feed, and it looks different from the others when we look at the data. All right, so then I just did quick, what are the top words in these, and then I could break down by search term too. But so at the top level, the Indeed words are clients, gestion, équipe, France, data, post, group, marketing. This looks normal. The thing that's interesting in the student feed, stage is the third most common word, which makes sense for a feed that's aimed at students. There are a lot of internships. APNIC, we have development, clients, équipe, projet. So management, I guess that makes sense that we would have things that are essentially a lot of management terms here. Client is in a lot of these actually. Équipe. Okay. So let's talk about the word Tyvek part, which is where I thought I would get the most bang for the buck out of trying to identify skills, but it's still kind of provisionary. So when you do one of these searches on their site, we get over here this little graph. This is the closest terms in word Tyvek space. So words that occur in the same context are likely to be near each other. And This is a little on-the-fly TSNE layout, which is a popular way to lay out these kinds of data sets. So there are some weird bugs. Like when I added Scikitlearn here, Scikitlearn shows up in a couple of ads, but it doesn't show up over here. So I started looking into this in the code a little more. First, before I do that, this is one of the classic pictures of Word Tyvek in action. You get sort of separation in space, multidimensional space of related terms with distances preserved depending on various semantic factors. There's some links coming up about this. It turns out to deal with the large data problem and to get a good approximation of skills, because we didn't have any good filter on what a skill was, that's one of the things we were investigating. One of my students was super clever and used a scraped list of LinkedIn skills. Okay, I don't know how much you guys know about LinkedIn skills. You'll discover in a second. Let me skip over the TSNE thing. So the LinkedIn skills is just generally kind of a joke among a lot of people, right? You can endorse someone for being a data janitor, which I think I've been endorsed for a lot. You can endorse people for whatever you want. They believe at LinkedIn that that's okay, that it will wash out in the noise. But there's some really weird things. So notice the letter A. That's, I think, why A showed up as like one of the skills in that data scientist's job ad. Like they did a quick pass to see words in his CV, how they matched the LinkedIn skills, and pulled up the word A. So it's apparently a legitimate skill. I don't know if this is a real product or if this is just somebody being endorsed for checklists. I could be endorsed for checklists. Feel free, feel free. And now, cheerful, that's one of those things, like, is that so first of all, it's not the right word form for that to be a skill, but it's like a soft skill, maybe? I don't know. Cheerleading, yeah, okay. Cheese, I think in France that's a legitimate skill. I will say it's a legitimate skill. But first of all, these are all in English. So fromage is not in this list, I don't think. It does turn out that there are some French words in here, but they're not enough. And it certainly doesn't match, say, a French CV or a French job description. So there's a whole bunch of problems with this as a first pass approach, although I thought he was really clever to do it. So essentially, all of the things you get here are only things that appear in the LinkedIn skills list. Interesting first pass, though. So he did a graph of those. He did a TSNE layout of just using the Word Tyvek vectors from our job ads with the words that are in the LinkedIn skills list, and got this layout. It's actually not terrible. It's much better than the one I got using all the words in which you'll see in a second. It's horrible. But let me pull up this. Okay, so this is a better view of this graph. So these are the vector layouts of just the LinkedIn skills. So what did turn out happening is that up here in the upper left, we have the technical skills. So that's what we'd want, right? If these words appear in the same context in a resume, then we expect, in a job ad, then we expect them to sort of show up together and be like a group of technical skills. So we got what we wanted. What's interesting to me is we get all of these things here. WordPress is in here along with Unix, et cetera. Windows and Linux are up here right on top, which I thought was great. And then over here, this is the Illustrator, Adobe, Photoshop trio of dots, which are related to these technical skills, but are in their own little group. And then there's the word design, IT, analytics, intelligence, like business intelligence. This is the HTTP wws.com trio, which is great. Okay, so there are other parts of this that are nicely organized. So Excel does not appear up here. Excel appears sort of down here with some other sort of technical things, small talk, airports, I don't know. I mean, I think the whole crash of like Heathrow, maybe that was Excel airports. In any case, this is an interesting layout that did get some of the clusters I expect. This is the locations. Dublin, Dubai, Amsterdam. So this is all of the locations for the jobs. They appear in the same parts of job ads, right? Okay. Right. So yeah, and this is the zoom on this technical area. So data, SOA, ETL. This is consulting companies. Those are somewhat near in the space, although we'd have to check what the actual distances are. Cisco, Amazon is over here. This is interesting. So we have agile and these sort of methodologies over here. Then we get things like design, UX, web. These are all internet. These are like related, but not as closely grouped as the hardcore programming skills. Analytics is over here. Google. Okay, so his sorry. So his move with the LinkedIn skills paid off a bit better than I expected, but it still has these problems, like not French skills. So I updated the model with the last couple of months of data and then just did some quick checks. So this over here is what's most similar to Python. Qt. What's going on in this country? Qt, Ada, Perl, Scala, Fortran. This is like a weird list of adjacent skills, but there you go. So this, when I saw this, because that was the first thing I checked was Python, I thought that it was the model wasn't good yet. But then a bunch of other things look pretty good. So branding, brand, editorial, mark, the French, et cetera, those look good. Then over here, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, Sketch, Adobe, these are great. This is a great match to the Illustrator skill set. SQL, also a pretty good list, right? Like we've got all the like reasonable SQL variants. This is a little strange, but okay. Ruby, look how close the Rails match is, 94. This is a great result. You would expect Ruby on Rails always together. And then Django is number 2 there. The Flask is down here. React, again, a great set of matches. JavaScript is very close, and then we have React.js, AngularJS, Bootstrap, Webpack. This is pretty good. So in general, I'm disturbed by this, and I'm going to start reading Python job ads in France in more detail, but the rest of them look pretty good. When I tried to lay out the entire vocabulary set, not just the skills from LinkedIn, I got this, which is horrible. It took 40 minutes too. So Olivier, please solve my memory problem. Yeah, not fun. But there is, I don't know if you know about this great tool. My screen has been resized. So I uploaded my Word2Vec model in TensorBoard format to projector.tensorflow.org so I could play with it a little better and actually look into things. So it produced a better layout for me after running with me changing some settings. The problem with the Scikit-Learn TSNE is you just set it running and you have no idea until you look at a picture at the end of the day. Yes. Olivier told me he was working on it. So in this one, I can actually search for words in this space, click on one, and then get what the matches are. These words are all, hey, Eclipse showed up here. Oh, right. Perl is always number 1 when I do this. So you can sort of see the space better. Over here is like MATLAB, things that are matches but are not laid out in the same space exactly. I think if I switch, it's if I isolate. Yeah, so this great view is cool. This is a 3D rotating PCA view where here's my Python, and then I can see sort of, because it's rotating, I can see relatively where things are a little bit better. So here's Perl, the closest pal, scripting, Qt, other relatives that are nearby. MATLAB is off here. Even JavaScript shows up in this. You can decide how many points you want to isolate and search for whatever you want in the space. So this is like a better view. If I were going to update my students' code, I would do way heavier on the search and affinity diagram. Not this necessarily, but but this is nice. So now it's going to relay out just the 101 points. That is so trippy. But this really allows you to see the relationship between the layouts. That's super weird. Okay, never mind. Let's move on. But you want to play with this? There's a bit of code in GenSim now, I think. Although I had to modify the copy of the script I had that will change your Word to Vec model from GenSim format into the 2 files you need here that work in this. Email me or DM me if you need help doing it. Okay. Oh wait, maybe I should stop that. Stop. Okay. All right, so, oh yeah, the thing I meant to say. So on the tensor board layout, it isolated all the English. It acted like a good language detector. All of the English ended up down here, and this is all French, which is pretty cool. This is French plus the words, the technical words, et cetera, that are independent. Right, that's what we just looked at. So then I made another visualization because I wasn't getting enough in Tableau. So in Tableau, I took just the top words from all the most common words in the searches that were done, and then I colored them by source so I could get an idea of how the sources contributed to the vocabulary. And then here's all the searches and categorization of all of the terms. So if I want to search for just certain things like big data altogether, data, maybe data science. Now what I'm seeing is these are the words that are the biggest, so data appears the most frequently, colored by the source that produced those searches. So APNIC and Indeed, and virtually nothing from the student job feed. There's no JT in here at all for the ones I just switched on. So for me, this was sort of a concern, and it's an ongoing concern I'm going back to school with tomorrow, because that means that I'm teaching data science and they're looking at a job feed that has virtually nothing in it related to that at the school, including for stage. So when they come to me saying, I don't know how to get a job, and I'm like, look for SQL, look for Excel, look for Python, they can't do it on the feed that they're getting at school. They have to go to a different source. So that was one of my takeaways from this problem. There are a couple more in here. So let me turn these off and show you a different search. So if I search for achat, communication, we're starting to see some pink, which is the academic feed. Conseil, what's interesting about Conseil is nothing from APNIC turned up, which I would have thought. These are all like Indeed and the student feed. Gestion de projet, logistique, etc. So there's actually no APNIC in here at all, and I just clicked off a whole bunch of business type jobs, which is interesting. Okay, so having extra tools for this was super useful for me to be able to look at the data. Tableau, by the way, is free for academics and students, so you can get your own copy and do what I just did. Job ads, they're hard. This was posted yesterday, 2 days ago maybe. This is like my imitation of most jobs, and this is like an American job ad, but it's pretty common to see this. You have to see the last, so 25,000 a year, see you in hell. And then in response to her, someone posted this real one for an internship. This is, I mean, we've all seen data science internship job ads that look just like this. This is for a like media company, proficient in all of these things. And it's a part-time job, but it means like you're doing like all of this stuff. There are a lot of really bad job ads out there, so that's part of this problem, right? There are a lot of ads that are just terrible. We know that. And then business job ads, I know nothing, I've never looked for a straight business job, so it's an education for me. When I started looking at them, there are things that, it's hard to figure out to me what the skills are, because I'm not looking for soft skills in job ads usually. The most concrete thing ends up being PowerPoint, Excel, and Word, like in a lot of these ads. That's not to diminish what they're asking for, because they're asking for, before this is this long list of things that you have to do on this job or have to have done before. So it's experience, not like concrete skills like SQL or Excel or whatever. So this is like this fairly advanced job that involves doing a lot of stuff that would be very, very hard, that they couldn't pay me enough to do. And then, you know, we get down here, and these are the only two things I would have pulled out as skills. So what I'm doing is essentially possibly too hard in a business context. It's going to be hard to do a great job at it. Any ideas you have would be good. So this is why the students, when we told them we were trying to build something like this, they said this algorithm has to be really, really good. This is like hard. What's a skill for a job, especially in business? But meanwhile, they want something better, because the job ads they're looking at are really vague, especially for intro-level positions. And they're all looking at that same academic partner feed, and they're all competing with each other and their friends who are on their project teams or whatever. Now, this was one of my students, and so basically as soon as he said this to me, I said, you need to start looking for SQL, you need to start looking for Python, you need to look for pandas. And I showed him job ads that I came like business analyst jobs, entry-level data scientist. And he now has a great job doing something like that. So he just didn't know to look for those kinds of words the way we would. So another thing I was interested in doing is trying to evaluate course description. So say I've taken a course at school. This is an actual description of a course from the student handbook. Can I then match it against jobs? Like if I take this course, will I then be able to get a job? Like what kind of job? So this is essentially a globalization job about things that menace the enterprise. It's a very vague course. So like I looked for more documents like this in Elasticsearch, and I did get, like the best hit I got was something about, there's a knowledge manager thing with global services or something. It's not a terrible match, but you know what? If I change the minimum term frequency to a higher match, like you have to have more words in common with the course, everything disappears. There are no hits. So this is a problem I'm not sure we can approach it this way. So then there's this course description. It's a decision-making course, so entrepreneurs have to make decisions, cognitive psychology for making decisions. So we're not going to match a job ad with a skill that says you're able to make decisions. Like there's a mismatch here between what's being taught and what's in a job ad, but that's probably right? It's just like a liberal arts education. You don't get a job doing history because you took a history class, but the process of analyzing and understanding and categorizing events in a history class is probably useful anyway. So the question is, how do you relate those courses and what's in them to being good at your job? So to wrap up, I want to go back to the skill extraction problem. I'm going to use some training data because a lot of resumes have a skills section. I think this is going to be easier and more useful for technical jobs for obvious reasons. I need to read a lot more business job ads. The CV matching problem, I need to check in our student research whether lots of people want to upload their resume and get jobs that way. I'm not sure that we do. I don't know that I would trust that. For instance, when I uploaded my resume using his thing, Perl was the thing that I haven't written Perl in 100 years. So something's wrong with Perl here. Maybe maybe we should look at, like, if you've taken these 4 classes and you really like them, how do these courses as a group match against a job? Like, what's the match there? That's probably better. Maybe though, even though the decision-making point I made holds, I think maybe we should be evaluating course descriptions by how well they match jobs, because maybe they could be better. Maybe the course descriptions aren't very good. This is a theory that I have. And then this problem, the find a negative, is a little bit difficult, but it's one of the points, right? So I had to convince them that we should be teaching SQL. There are a lot of business analyst jobs that use SQL, duh, obviously. Like, it's the most useful thing that you can learn, in my opinion, in any data area. So obviously we should be teaching it, but like, that was not a gap they had any idea existed until my dean called her daughter at Amazon. So to wrap up, I'm starting a data science institute, or trying to, with colleagues at EM-Lyon. That means we're going to have some money, and I would like to invite people down to Lyon to give talks, to give workshops. We'll pay people to teach, in Paris, Lyon, Saint-Etienne, Shanghai, Casablanca, and India. If anyone wants to teach workshops or tutorials on Python, I would love that. Let me know. Drop me a note, please. I'm going to try to put together conferences in Paris and in Lyon with neural net people doing AI for art, web data viz people. I know a lot of them. So hopefully, assuming this gets funded, we'll see more action on this topic. And then I want to put this back up here as the last slide. You should hire some of these people. Although you'll never get him, I'm just telling you. All right, if anyone has any ideas about how to approach this, better ideas, I would love to hear them. I'm just getting started on the data. Right. Thank you.